Hey YouTube, this is The Art of Prepping. Thanks for joining me. I got a lot of requests for this video, in particular ever since a lot of these warnings and basically individuals going a little bit far with the news of Russia is recalling their citizens back to the homeland, or they call it the motherland. And I just wanted to talk about some of the questions I get. No, I don't think that we're going to be in a nuclear war like in the next few days or next few weeks. Maybe in the next few months. I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of U.S. policies that are creating a lot of tension all around the world, in particular for Russia. So that's one problem. But in terms of what's going to happen in the future, yes, I believe that people are getting ready for a World War III, but I can't tell you when, and I'm not going to sit here and make predictions and panic people and get all crazy because I just don't know. But what I do know is that there's ways that you can protect yourself. In this uncertain world, you're going to need to know, and this is what some of the questions I've been getting about is, how do you protect yourself? Now, Southern Prepper 1, once again, Southern Prepper 1 is doing a video series. I don't know if he's going to cover all of this. I hope he does. But because of my large amount of questions that I'm receiving that I feel like I need to answer at least some of them, I'm going to default to him and go to his channel to get some of the other information. But just for some informational purposes only, I'm going to talk about potassium iodide tablets. Sometimes it's generically referred to as potassium iodine tablets, but the proper name is potassium iodide. They typically are for, as we can see here, this is an example, for blocking the thyroid in a radiological emergency. This is a Iostat brand. They make different brands. I'm not pushing this brand. I make no profit off of any of this. I don't push products. This is going to be in a tablet form, and this is for adults, 130 milligrams. You take one a day. This is a 2-week supply. Once again, this is 14 tablets, and what we can see here is that this is the typical longevity of how long you would need it for the average radiological emergency. There are some situations that could be up to a month that you will need to shelter in place and take this. This is why you would need to have at minimum 2 to 3 of these packs. Not just because there could be an extended shelter in place that it requires you to take it, but also multiple attacks. Maybe if it's not just like a nuclear power plant that becomes compromised and we are getting nuked, what's to say that we don't get nuked several times, not just once? So, just having one pack is not enough. And so I'd say 2 to 3 minimum. I'd say, to be really, this is just to be honest with you, I'd say, 8 to 10 of these packs per person is really the level that I would go. Now, as we can see here, the active ingredients, which is very simple, it says potassium iodine, 130 milligrams. And of course, you can break these up depending on the age of the individual to suit their body weight and their age. And this is a thyroid blocking type of substance here. And we'll talk about just that in a moment. Now, in terms of the expiration date, sometimes it's a best by date. They do have long shelf lives. Just even commercially or even by the manufacturers will admit that they're a long shelf life. This one I've had for many years and it expires April of 2021. But if you look at the evidence, as long as you keep these in a nice, cool, dry, dark place like I do, you're getting an average of like anywhere from 9 to 11 more years beyond this particular so-called shelf life. These actually have a very long shelf life. The studies have shown, if you look into it at all, that the properties of this, which is the chemical composite of this, is Ki. It's the chemical composite of this particular substance, and it's active for like 9 to 11 years, depending on how you store it beyond this date. Once again, some people, they put down best by dates, and this one actually says expiration date, but it really doesn't expire. We know this just like on a lot of over-the-shelf medicines. The average goes, 2 to 4 years beyond what it even says. For example, canned goods that are, like food. I mean, it's not uncommon at all to have anywhere from 1 to 3 years additional beyond the best buy date, or even what they would consider, expiration date. But most of those are, just kind of like a best buy date. And we talked about in past videos. Oh yeah, but just real quickly though, we have over 700 videos now with the Art of Prepping channel. And so I just wanted to celebrate that and say, hey, thanks for all your support for me to get to that level. I don't even know the exact number. I just kind of noticed that we blew by the 700 mark a couple of days ago, I believe, and I didn't really say anything about it, but that's really cool. So let's shoot for 1,000 videos. So why would you take this? Well, this is something you would take if we actually were in a nuclear war, or there was nuclear fallout, or a compromised nuclear power plant. There's a thing called radioiodine that's released, among other different types of radioactive isotopes. If you look into this, there's different types that are released when there is a nuclear reaction, a nuclear type of compromise or detonation. And what this is that the radioiodine actually it gets absorbed in your thyroid gland, and because of that, that absorption, it increases, if not almost guarantees, depending on the exposure amount, that you will pretty much have thyroid cancer, which is horrible because the thyroid helps regulate a lot of your body, mechanisms and functions. So you need your thyroid, and so. Once again, the adult dosage is typically 130 milligrams, and of course, children it's a less. Some of it goes by age, and some of it goes by weight. They come in basically 3 different formats: liquid, tablets, and granules. The liquid is a lot more rare. The granules, I've never even seen those before. Apparently, it's out there. And the tablets, to my knowledge, like these, are by far the most common. And so. When we look at the research, not only do you get an extended shelf life beyond what it says, so you can really stock these up now and not have to worry about it for a long time, that when we get down to details here, the granules, they estimate that they have a good shelf life, like an actual usable shelf life, not just what the manufacturer says, but when they test it, you're getting an average around 21 years shelf life. The tablets, depending on what brand and what format, that they are, and it's pretty much the same amount of time here on the shelf life, but they've been estimated anywhere from 15 to 16 years. So pretty much, let's say 15 years shelf life. So that's very good. That's a pretty good shelf life, really. I mean, you could really just buy these and pretty much just forget about them in your kits for a decade and a half. That's a pretty long time, really. So 15 years, basically, shelf life for like this, for example. So I just wanted to bring this up. This is just part of the system, though, that you would want to take immediately. Once you find out there's a release of radiation in your area, or if there's been a detonation, you take this immediately. The effectiveness actually starts to break down once you get into the 3 to 4 hour mark. It becomes a lot less effective, and then after that, it becomes way less effective, almost not useful at all. I'd still take it, even if it's been a matter of a handful of hours. It's better than nothing. But what happens is over that first, basically the 3 to 4 hours of radiation exposure, your thyroid is already going to be full with radioactive or radioiodine. And so your body can't discriminate and does not discriminate between regular iodine and radioactive iodine. So the problem here is that radioiodine will be absorbed, and then your body is now compromised, and you just can't get that out. I mean, you can flush it with other things, but it fills up with that iodine, and until that actually gets metabolized and broken up, which is now radioactive and it's in your body, you're going to have a major problem to detox that. So you want to take this immediately as soon as you know that there's a problem and there's possible exposure. Of course, you want to take this for at least 2 weeks, unless you can really get out of that area and you're in the clear. But if you have to shelter in place in that area, at least 2 weeks. Some cases, a month. What else do we need to talk about? Oh yes, this is just in conjunction with sheltering in place. Like we talk about having thick, if we can have 10 to 20 millimeter plastic sheeting that we can duct tape to all of our intakes of air and around windows and doors to seal off your home. do that. You need to do that. You need to have that kit. Basically a seal it up kit. Yeah, that's what I call it, for sheltering in place. You also want, in case you have to be mobile, a means to protect yourself besides these tablets, to move about if you need to. Like after a couple of days of the detonation, you need to move to a better, a more hardened location that would help resist, radiation from penetrating through your structure, maybe a safer location, basically. You're going to need to have protective gear, including an NBC mask. Now, I brought this up before. I'm not really wanting to show you my stuff when it comes to this, because I think it's, to me, it's a bit personal, because I don't want to show all my cards. I don't want to, but I will tell you, get the best quality possible. NBC stands for nuclear, biological, and chemical attacks, or chemical types of exposures. And the canisters, they typically range anywhere from 3 to 10 year shelf life, depending on which one you have. The 10-year ones are very, very hard and very rare, almost impossible right now to find. But you want to use those. The canisters typically last about 8 to 12 hours, depending on the intensity of the contaminants. And you'll know, when the canister is starting to get full of contaminants, because you'll have a hard time breathing. The airflow starts to restrict. Now, in terms of the besides this, the potassium iodine and the gas mask, which is really an NBC mask, you want to have some type of protective layer on your body. And so that's up to you to figure out what kind of, radiological or hazmat suit you want to get, if you want to go that far. But you can go, if you really had to, wear several layers of coats, and plastic sheeting, maybe rain gear on top of that, duct tape, like surgical gloves. I keep a very large stash of a very thick surgical gloves, nitrile gloves, or if you're not allergic to latex, you could go with that, but I double and triple up on those. And duct tape the ends of your collar, and of course around your pant legs with duct tape, and basically layer up if you had to go out and get exposed just temporarily to get out of that area, or maybe go to a safer location. So this is something that is no joke, and I'm not saying this doing this video to scare people, or to say, oh, we need to do, you need to have all this like right now. You really do need it right now, but just over the next few weeks, put these things together, create your radiological kit, your exposure kit. And I'm doing this because a lot of people always ask about it, and a lot of this though, I just don't like to show a lot of my gear. It's just how I am. I'm a private person. Just like I almost didn't even want to show these, but this is like very common items to some degree. So I'm going to show these. This is what they look like. You should have a lot of these. You should also have other different levels of protection. And so let's take care of ourselves and our family. Let's be mindful of what we need to do and get the information we need. Hopefully this is just a primer for you. Hopefully you'll dig a lot deeper now. Maybe this sparks a little bit of interest of what's out there and how you should go about taking care of yourself. I am writing an ebook, and I do have a small section on radiological exposure. And it's a basic setup, but it gives you just an idea, a starting point, some basic pointers also to do something right then and there if there was an exposure. So in the future, once this ebook comes out, maybe in the next month or two, you might want to just check it out. So, hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for all your support, and for the comments, for inquiring about things that matter, because taking care of ourselves is our number one priority. It's our responsibility. And if we don't take care of ourselves, our communities will collapse, our nation will fall, and we already have enough problems as it is. So we need to maintain our health, avoid thyroid cancer, among other different types of complications, if there was ever a radiological attack or compromise at the local nuclear power plant.